All right, and we are live. Thanks everybody for tuning in. This is Stone Guy 223 on Monday night. We're just gonna do a chat about the whole Michael Brown situation. It's staying pretty relevant in the news, so I figured we'd. There's a lot of new things came out today. Autopsy, some videos, some different things like that. So thought we'd just have a little chat about that and get some varying opinions, some different thoughts on what you might do and how you think it's being handled. So anyway, real quick, get some introductions done. From my left, we've got Daniel.
He's away from the computer.
Oh, okay. Mr. Cork 71.
Hello, folks.
And we've got Thin Blue Line.
Was muted.
Always away from the computer as well.
I guess so.
Alrighty then. There's some other links out there, so some people will be coming on in, and if you want a link, just head over to Gun Channels. There's it's posted in there, so gunchannels.com. So anyway, let's get right to it. I kind of took some time to really sit down and watch some news reports, some differing channels, differing media sources, and it seems to me. Well, let's do this. The first thing that's out that I saw was the actual convenience store tape that shows him basically grab this little store owner by the neck and shove him back and walk out with a handful of cigars or blunt wrapping papers or whatever it was. But so that was pretty blatant, very obvious that it was a strong arm robbery.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing that was released obviously was the name of the officer, his background and his history on the force. 6-year vet, no disciplinary write-ups or anything like that. The other big thing was the fact that apparently, and this is kind of strange, I don't know if there was a lady that was supposedly a good friend of the officer that did the shooting that called in and gave his version of the story. So basically she was telling reporters what he told her, right? And then they've also got just a third-party, unbiased witness that actually says that Michael Brown was, in fact, coming towards the officer when the shots were fired. He said that he thought he was missing him because he kept coming forward. And so that's from just a guy off the street that had and then there's also some new cell phone footage coming forward that shows Brown actually aggressing towards the officer. So it seems like there's a lot of new information out there from what was originally reported. So I don't know. It's definitely painting a different picture from what we originally heard to what, kind of how the case is developing.
Yes, definitely a whole different picture.
I don't know if you all had talked about it previously, but someone today was saying, well, the cop, he was something about the cop, that the cop shouldn't have been stopping him or something like that, this, that, or the other, and that if the cop hadn't stopped him, this wouldn't have happened. But the reality of it is the cop, that the robbery hadn't yet been reported or something, so the cop wasn't stopping him for the robbery. That doesn't really matter because Brown knew he had robbed the store. So in his mind, he was thinking they were going to arrest him. So whether the cop knew about the robbery or not is really not.
And there's official report that says that, well, it's not the official report. Let me rephrase that. the report that the police have released does not indicate that the officer had gotten the call, but the testimony of his friend, the lady that he told the story to, does say that he had just gotten a call on dispatch from dispatch about the same time he had made contact, or just shortly after he'd made contact. So that's why he reversed it and re-engaged him. Based
Okay,
on
I didn't hear any of that.
based on the report that came in from dispatch, he threw it in reverse, and he was like, "Well, damn, these guys match the description. They've got a handful of cigars. Let me back up and see what's going on." And that's when the initial confrontation took place with,
Okay.
supposedly from what the lady's story, this is kind of secondhand because this is what the cop told the girl, and then the girl is telling the reporter, but she said that the officer made contact, pulled up to him, started to get out of the car, and that Michael Brown slammed the car door back on the officer. He tried to open the door again, and then he slammed the door, pushed the door back again, and actually struck the officer in the face. And then they wrestled for the gun or something, and that's when the gun went off. So it seems like it's definitely, the gun went off. They're saying that after the first shot, the gun went off, and then he backed away or something, and then was taunting the officer, saying something like, "What are you going to do? You know you're not going to shoot me." And then that's when other witnesses say that he then started running towards the officer, and that's when the officer basically unloaded on him.
Well, let's be honest, though. Let's interject here. The FBI has denied hearing any testimony to that effect. They were just on CNN saying they have received no such testimony.
Well, it's the testimony from a girlfriend.
I was not there.
Right. This is his. That's why I said this is what the officer told this girl, that in turn called.
And he also told that girl that he got a call from dispatch, and dispatch says no, we did not give him any such call.
So it's hearsay, and therefore not
Not
really.
only hearsay,
Yeah, it's not really.
by facts.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is all conjecture and hearsay. I'm not. I hope everybody knows I wasn't preaching this as gospel. I'm just reporting to you what has been going on. Fox News, CNN, all these different media sources are getting conflicting stories. And
No, actually, there's not really any conflicting story right now. The FBI has only had 7 witnesses. All 7 witnesses, according to them, stories jive. So, and these are people that saw the scene. So all you're doing when you keep spreading that is you're just spreading propaganda put forth by certain organizations like Eagle Media and WND.com.
well, now there was a new witness that had cell phone footage that said that Michael Brown was actually walking, like coming at the officer, that he was not running away, he didn't have his hands up, none of that.
That was all stuff that was put on EagleRising.com and stuff like that yesterday, and they have all since then deleted their video references to that stuff because it's not true.
Well, it's actual cell phone footage, so how can they?
No, it's not, because they just said it was, and then it turned out the guy didn't have any cell phone footage, and they just talked about it on MSNBC a little bit ago, and they said the website they linked was EagleRising.com that even linked website footage that was supposed to be from the scene. It wasn't, and now when you go to their webpage and look for it, it just shows video deleted.
Okay. That's interesting.
You guys hear about the?
I just tried to go to their website and go to the video, and it says this video is private. That's what it says now.
Do you guys hear about the marijuana claims that claims they had marijuana in his system when he was shot or when he was doing it? And then one of the examiners was like, I don't know anything about marijuana.
Well,
autopsy guys.
And I hate that bullshit, because marijuana does not make you violent. I've never known anybody that smoked a joint and wanted to go rob and assault people.
They think marijuana makes you like more chill.
It can't make you have poor judgment, though. It can make you do something stupid.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give you that. Poor judgment, maybe, but
I mean, let's be fair, the other direction too. The coroner probably wouldn't. The guy who did the autopsy on the shooting probably didn't care whether he had marijuana or not. He was looking for it.
oh, who's that? Oh, there
You
we
got
go.
something in the background.
That was Daniel. He muted. Yeah, well, and that's even as from a law enforcement perspective, I absolutely hate when either law enforcement or court, a DA or an attorney or something tries to either justify the actions of law enforcement or demonize or criminalize the actions of a suspect solely based on like drug, especially marijuana. Other drugs, PCP, that's a little different story. But when they're like, oh, he was high, he had been smoking marijuana, so what? Yeah, I mean,
Of all the stuff they tried to make in the news today, and the stuff they tried to use conjecture and on both sides, the only thing that I walked away with having any importance to me, having had a minor investigative background, the only thing I took away from everything I saw today that really was a bit of information that I think is a golden piece of information is that the fatal shot on Michael Brown was through the top of his skull.
Well, now the autopsy says forehead.
His top of skull, and it even shows the mark right here. It's right above the crest of your hair, right here.
Well,
That
yeah,
would
kind
go
of.
in line with him charging at the officer.
That's what they were saying. That's what they were saying is that
he
when,
charged at the officer with his head down, it wouldn't, because the bullet entered here and then rested at the back of his skull above his spinal column.
right. Well, let's think about it, Yankee. You've taken Krav Maga and different things like that. If you're coming in. If you're coming in for a takedown and grapple with someone, you do dip your head.
I don't buy it. I don't buy
All
it.
right. Well,
Times and then that he's coming in head down.
Stone Guy, the way that
So what do you think happened, Yankee?
Because every eyewitness testimony, the FBI even has stated that every eyewitness testimony that they seem to be what they called non-coercive testimony, which means these people didn't get together and hear it. Now you do have to sort through like what testimony has come from people that just heard stuff standing around in the crowd afterwards. But one element of all the testimony is the last 3 shots were fired with him on his knees. So the top of the head entry wound and the path of the bullet in the top of the head coincides with someone being on their knees and falling forward. It does not coincide with someone charging him on a level plane and being shot in the head.
So he was on his knees, not just turning around and with his hands up.
No, most likely from being shot in the top of the head, farther than it took, he was probably on his knees, already fallen when he final shot.
The voice of reason would like to chime in real quick and say that all this conjecture and all this could have been, would have been, maybe, it's the same exact shit that happened with Trayvon. There's a blackout period where the point is, even with the evidence and even with looking at what you preliminarily know from what you've learned from various media sources from around the world, you don't know shit. Not you personally. None of us do.
No, we do know some stuff. We do know that this person was shot. We do have an autopsy report. We do have bullet wounds.
Second autopsy report that was ordered by who?
Still an official autopsy.
His attorney, the family.
the family's attorney.
And it was done by a state-recognized organization. It wasn't done
Without the clothing involved. Without the clothing involved. Is that
Well, hold on.
Clothing has
The whole case is still ongoing, right? We don't have all the facts at all. I mean, there's no way to have all the facts
according
until...
to the experts I've been watching today, that the clothing is important.
The clothing is important in some aspects, but in the aspects of the 3 things that they were looking at today, which is 3 things you usually look at in an autopsy wound like this when you're trying to determine positioning, is entry, exit, and re-entry. Those are the.
How about we wait until some attorneys get some experts with the actual evidence on trial? How about we wait until then until we figure this out?
What we're talking about right now is we're talking about the facts we have so far, and like we said, most of the stuff we saw today was conjecture on both sides. The things we have that are concrete information is the autopsy report.
And it hasn't even gone to trial yet, right? Because the officer hasn't even been arrested or charged or indicted.
No, this is
trial. And to be
this
honest,
is probably months away from trial.
if ever, it'll probably go to a grand jury, and it won't face.
All right. Well, how about you? Okay, let's discuss this. Did you see the body language of the officer who they claim shot this guy?
You mean afterwards?
Yeah, did you see that footage that they showed today with his body language, and did you have any diagnosis of that?
From the angle that it was shot at and the distance, there's not much you can read. You can read that somebody just did something that they think might be bad, but that's about it. Because it's kind of shot from above and a distance.
Well, I'm thinking, and just bear with me here. If he reached into the officer's car, like was said, the officer could have shot from sitting inside, thus the head wound, and then as he's going backwards, kept firing, and thus causing the rest of the wounds.
No.
No, they say the final shot was in the head.
Not the top of the headshot.
See, I didn't know the final shot was in that.
That was the killing wound.
Final shot was.
See, how can we sit here and try to act like we know what the sequence of shots was based on
The final shot was an instant death shot. It destroyed the brain and the top of the spinal column. So that.
Has anyone heard about any stray bullets and where those bullets landed? Because it's pretty clear that he fired and hit the entire left side of this individual. To think that none of the bullets went stray.
He missed probably a couple times.
Yeah, that would be an interesting fact to know exactly how many shots he fired versus how many actually hit him.
Yeah, because what was it? A lot of the initial things I heard were between 6 and 12 shots fired, is what people were saying.
Well, he got hit 6 times, so it was at least 6.
Yeah.
But I hear you, Tack Daddy. But I mean, you know as well as I do that these chats are just that. It's a bunch of us sitting around throwing hypothesis around, and so I mean.
Let's face it. The only time people ever say let's just not talk about it until it's proven is usually when they don't like what they think they're going to find. So I'm not going to play that game. I'm going to sit around and we're allowed to reminisce.
I'm taking on the.
We're not casting a vote for execution, so we get to.
Yeah, in my humble opinion, I think it's very, very possible that especially the top of the headshot would be in conjunction with somebody running at you and being taken down by a bunch of body shots, and because we all know how cops shoot when they're scared. We've all seen the videos and there's a lot of. I mean, they dump their mags most of the time.
Yep.
But
Well, yeah, if you get shot in the chest or the stomach, you're naturally gonna bend. You're gonna bend over, which would put your head, the forehead, top of the head, in line with a shot.
even when you're running at somebody, especially someone who has no fighting experience, will grab at people's waist. I've seen it happen dozens of times.
I have never, ever, ever in all
You've
my.
never seen someone tackle
I've never
someone.
seen anyone charge at this angle. Never.
Yeah, that's not necessary.
No,
for
think about a
6 foot tall men. That's ridiculous.
Think about a
the shot
football.
could easily be played.
Let's look at it. If someone was charging at you, head down, you're standing firing, they're charging at you head down, you shoot them in the top of the head, what trajectory is the bullet going to take? Is it going to end up resting at the back of the upper skull, or is it going to end up resting at the chin?
Okay, but the first shots didn't hit him in the head. The final shot hit him in the head, like you were saying earlier. So the first few shots may have struck him in the body or the legs or whatever, and as he fell, the final shot hit him in the top of the head. As he fell forward, stopping his
He was shot in the arm and one in the chest.
If you want to say he fired at him several times, hit him several times as he was coming, and then he fell to the ground and was shot in the head as he was falling, that can be a possibility. But him being charging when he was shot in the head is not
No,
like.
I'm just saying he was probably already partially tucked because he was charging at someone. If this is the scenario, if this was what happened, he would have been tucked a little bit as a charge, and then when he was charging, as he fell,
think
he
about a
wouldn't-
football player. He was a big boy. I'm sure he played football. He probably had the football players dip their head when they go in for a tackle, and if he was charging at the officer to tackle him, I guarantee you he would have had his head dipped down.
Not far of a
But they
charge.
still have their eyes up. It's not like they're charging with their top of their.
charge. Plus, look at the distance he was from the squad car when the body fell. If the officer was standing at his car like he says,
Now, hold on. Are you saying 2 to 3 feet is the number I heard? Is that what you heard, that he fell about 2 to 3 feet from the officer?
that's what the officer says. But the only images I've seen, unless the officer moved his car, he's about 15 feet from the car.
Okay.
Oh, and did he move his car?
Well, obviously there's so many variables.
You're not supposed to.
Oh no, he know better than that. But
Yeah.
But let's kind of move off a little bit from the multitude of variables that exist that we could argue all night to more of something we can talk about as far as, and I think you said it earlier when you mentioned that you're not asking for an execution, and I want to touch on the fact that the media, I think 3 different media affiliates posted this guy's personal information, showed pictures of his house, this officer, pictures of where he lived. I think that was totally negligent, irresponsible, unprofessional.
It's the same thing as when that newspaper company posted all the CCW user stuff. It's
just glorious.
Yeah, New York.
Yeah, New York
It's just-
Times, I believe.
They're just pandering.
Say can hurt somebody else in the process.
Yeah, I don't think it's pandering. I think it's completely irresponsible and unprofessional. I mean, the volatility of the situation, and as you know, as everybody's in such an uproar right now, to put that guy's house out there for the world to see,
And let's not forget Anonymous putting the wrong person's information out there first.
Oh, they
What
did.
did it accomplish? That's the question. What did it accomplish? Did it settle any unrest? Did it satisfy any questions? No, it settled nothing.
no, but it has a potential of getting him or his family, people.
That's all it is. It's negative
Yeah.
potential only.
Yeah.
All it is irresponsible reporting with no positive consequences, only negative.
I read that they had already evacuated his family when the things first happened. So I mean, at the very least, his family is not really in danger, but it's still irresponsible because when he comes back home, he has to pretty much move his house, basically, right?
Right. Well, and that's the thing. Let's all. I think we could all agree that whatever the outcome of this case, let's just say worst case scenario, if this cop turns out to be the biggest prick, completely unjustified shooting, he was 100% wrong. It doesn't have anything to do with his wife or his kids.
No,
If-
and plus, I don't know about anybody else out there, but I find it hard to believe that this cop went out today saying, I'm going to kill me a black kid. Like, he went out there with a preconceived notion that he was going to kill somebody and get away with it. I don't believe
Well,
that.
this is why I was asking you about the body language, because to me, it looked a little shocked. It looked a little like holy shit kind of thing.
He might
Well-
be a competent cop. He might even be an asshole. But I don't think for a second he made contact with this kid thinking, I'm going to end up killing this kid and I'm going to get away with it. And that's what it would be.
No.
I don't
Well,
think at worst it's negligent homicide or unlawful homicide, but it's not murder.
It's not, yeah, not a. Well, and that's the thing. You know, that's why I titled the chat like I did, because, you know, the kid. Well, I say kid. He was 18 years old, so he was an adult. Mr. Brown had already. He had just committed a strong arm robbery. I mean, call a spade a spade. He obviously wasn't a fucking choir boy. And there's no telling what his, that kind of speaks to his mentality and his demeanor shortly before this incident occurred. If he was already hyped up, from just robbing a place, and I mean, there's no telling what he did, but obviously he put himself in a situation that didn't have a good outcome.
And it wouldn't be the first time I've ever seen some angry young black man or angry young Hispanic man or angry young man, period, who went into a interaction with a police officer with the mindset of, what you gonna do, fucking shoot me, pig? Go ahead, shoot me, I'll make you shoot me. It would not be the first time I've seen that happen.
Well, and that's some of the reports were saying that he was taunting the officer, saying that, what are you gonna do? You're not gonna shoot me, and
That's why I am not as upset about whether this officer was just in killing this one person, because that still is a one-person case. And yes, it might be that this officer is unqualified and unprofessional and a jackass and should be charged with a crime, but for them to ask me to believe that, oh yeah, cops are just out there murdering black people and no one can get away with it, I don't believe that for a second. I don't think that was his intention that day when he left his home. I don't think that's his intention any time he ever put on a badge. But my problem, why I say my problem is not so much with that, is it's with the reaction from the state in protecting their own. When the state, to protect their own, started not releasing data that they're required by the Freedom of Information State Act to release, when they start defying their own state sunshine laws and refusing to release information they're supposed to release, when they basically tell the public, fuck you, we're the police, we'll do what we want, we don't have to give you any information, and then when they roll out a bunch of jackbooted thugs to deal with people that want to know why they're acting that way, that's the problem to me.
Right, and that's where we find ourselves now, is the fact that, you know, what's going on now is totally out of hand. I mean, to the point where they had to call on the National Guard, for Christ's sake. I mean, these people aren't. It's not what's that, productive. I mean, it's not productive at all. They're not getting anything accomplished, but allowing people to judge them based on the actions and the stupidity that they're perpetuating through the streets right now. They're just acting like a bunch of thug-ass punks, you know?
No black and white. This is all gray area. Whereas I completely agree with the protesters' right to assemble and protest, etc., without being infringed upon and without having to exercise their free speech at the end of a rifle barrel. I also understand there's going to be a bunch of freaking assholes that come in and try to take advantage of the situation, and those people need to be dealt with harshly by police. So it's not like there's either or. They can be selective in who they take care of.
Well, what do you think about the fact that they're reportedly sending 50 FBI agents to investigate this deal? You're talking about one. No, I'm not. You know,
Well, what I read, they're not coming to investigate the shooting. They're coming to investigate the civil rights violations after the shooting.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear that part. But the fact that they're sending that many for one victim, I'm not trying to discount this guy's life or the fact that he was potentially wronged and ended up dead, but I mean, and even the news, even some people for the president's thing, what do they call that? Shit, I'll think of it in a minute. But they were even saying, they gave statistics on New York, Detroit, Chicago, how many people, 19 people is a number that sticks. They said 19 people were shot in Chicago in the last 6 days. And no one's going, they're not sending FBI up there to investigate. They're not sending, no one's protesting in the streets. They're, you know what I mean? It's like,
it's very selective. And like I say, that's why this case doesn't have my interest, because one person was gunned down on the street by a police officer. It happens every day. People die unjustly for reasons far less dubious than that every day. People die from car accidents or, slipping in the tub, where it's a greater tragedy because there's no question of whether they were doing something to initiate their death. So the death of a single person is not the grand issue here. The grand issue here is the violation of civil rights by the state against the people.
And when you say civil rights, you mean the fact that they were not allowed to organize or whatever?
When you exercise your free speech, your right to assembly, etc., and you have to do so at the end of a barrel of a gun because the government wants to intimidate you,
right?
That's the problem.
Right, but how do you draw that line between not violating someone's civil rights and making sure that it didn't turn into what it eventually turned into?
I'll tell you one line that bothers me quite a bit.
It doesn't turn into that. That's not your option. You don't get to police everyone as if they're a felon just to prevent a felony. That's not an option. We don't get to police every concealed carry. If we start saying that even when no crime is being committed, you get to act like one is being committed, then we pretty much admit that the government has the right to stop gun ownership for the safety of the public. So,
I have a real problem with the way that some of those officers are carrying their weapons and pointing them.
Oh, most definitely. I mean,
it's really
the fact that
over a line, in my opinion.
Yeah, the fact that the officers went immediately on the offensive and staged themselves in a manner of offense and in a manner of basically I don't know how to phrase it, you know.
They basically went straight to pointing guns at people.
Right. It was a very offensive, aggressive posturing by law enforcement right off the bat, and I think that did have something to do with the, with the response from the protesters. I mean, how would you respond if
Well, I think there's different ways. Well, we've already talked about the best way to respond to that would have been for the police chief to be open and, transparent with the public, and then not agitated kind of responses. He was kind of egging things on. And to me, there's two different ways you can even look at the response from the police. Now, to me, it's a symptom of the problem of the militarization of police. They're being taught to be soldiers, so of course they're acting like soldiers. And that's what happens. When you tell someone you're a soldier, give them a soldier's toys, and send them in the street, they start thinking they're soldiers, even though these guys are not trained soldiers. When you go to when you go to police training, and Stone Guy can back me up on this, it's 6 months long, but only about 2% of it is anything that's actual tactical or physical. The rest is book learning. Almost. Yep. So soldiers get their asses on the fucking ground and they hold their weapon every day. Police officers don't do that. That's why they're not qualified to do what the National Guard does. So when we start looking at they're pointing their weapons at people, and I've got a problem with the way they're carrying their weapons. I have that same problem too. But then I have to consider, is that problem occurring because these guys are jackbooted assholes that want to shoot somebody, or is it occurring because they've been given toys they don't know how to use and it's a training issue?
These were National Guard guys that some had shotguns low and ready, and some were walking around with them pointed at them.
Whoa, hang on now. Okay, I'm glad you brought that up, because here's my deal, and let me preface this statement, because I think I've said before, there's a time and place. While I don't totally disagree with law enforcement, local law enforcement having the access to military type equipment, I definitely don't think they need to be deploying it, at the drop of a hat for every little situation. But it seems to me, from most of what I hear, people's opinion is, they don't want law enforcement to be militarized whatsoever, but then when you call in the National Guard, the National Guard is military. So is it okay that a National Guard, rolls up in MRABs and with 50 cals mounted on the top, pointing it at people? Is it okay for them to do it because they're military and not okay for the police?
Well, it's not okay if the situation doesn't warrant it. And usually the National Guard is not going to come in with on MRABs with 50 cals pointing at people. They usually come in. The most they will do is just like our soldiers do overseas. They adhere to a certain code of conduct, military code of conduct. They will hold their weapons at low ready, but they don't sit there on top of it with a rifle pointed at peaceful protesters, right at them. That was the thing that bothered me most about that guy sitting on top of the van that day. It wasn't because he had a rifle at the ready. It was because when they panned back, he had it pointed straight at a crowd of women and children and other people sitting linked arm in arm in the street.
There were lots of instances of dudes with ready, again, when I say at the ready, I guess I should say loaded weapons pointed at people. No doubt about it.
So there again, when the governor has to make the call and get the National Guard into his city to take over law enforcement, do you think at that point it's reached a level of escalation, or it's escalated to that level where that kind of action is warranted?
Have you seen any buildings burning? Have you seen any Molotov cocktails? Have you seen any rocks? Have you seen any rocks striking any officers? Come on.
Oh, dude. Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm just saying that's definitely yes. That's been reported now. Not initially.
Show me any video footage of that with all of the people that are there. Show me any video footage of the fire.
The only video there is of is some people raiding like a meat market. The meat market got pounded really bad, and
there was a female reporter today from MSNBC that actually physically witnessed a guy throwing a Molotov cocktail and other projectiles, and then
Oh yeah, that's going to happen. But that's like he's saying. Have you seen any buildings burned down? Have you seen any cops injured? No, you haven't. And all you've seen some looting, which and people were pissed the other day because they're like, the cops are just standing back and watching the looting. Well, I hate to break it to you, that's standard procedure in that kind of a situation. When you have a situation where there are massive numbers of people looting, and that's a property crime. It doesn't warrant storming in with M4, with a rifle, semi-automatic rifles, and just shooting everybody. Because that's what it would end up being if you marched in a bunch of armed soldiers. You would basically end up, someone would throw a rock, someone throw a brick, they'd start shooting. You'd end up with a bunch of dead civilians. That isn't worth property crime. Then everybody be like, you killed a bunch of people over property crime. So that's what they do usually when they're something like looting. If there's no physical danger to a person, like they're not like tying up clerks and hanging them from the ceiling, they will just let them loot themselves out and then go after them later. Because confronting them during the act is just going to turn into a bloodbath.
Yeah, so there again, if the situation, obviously the situation had to reach a level that would warrant, like, you think the governor's just going to call in the National Guard without verification or justification of doing so? Local law enforcement and even the state police, the troopers and stuff aren't going to say, they don't want to be taken over. You know what I mean? They wouldn't want to give up, kind of that case, if you will. Like, what I'm getting at is I think there would be a situation where local law enforcement would be calling the governor and saying, look, this is happening, we're out of control here, we don't have a handle on the situation, we need help. So he would call in the National Guard.
Yeah, well, I don't know if that's how this progressed or not, because a lot of people are complaining about how this progressed and how the police chief handled everything wrong, and then the state troopers came in and they said, oh, look, we're going to put this guy in charge. He's a black guy. You'll like him. And then they just countermand everything he does. Everything he does, he's like, really? I just heard that on the news. Really? I just heard that on the news.
This is great. CNN's got random brothers jumping in on the guy that's talking, just cursing and shit. It's funny.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. This could be a chance for people in that community to really bring, if in fact it turns out to be a bad shoot, they could use this as an opportunity to really bring some attention and maybe get something, addressed and changed. But with what they're doing now, really all they're getting is negative attention.
Well, and we also have to remember the powers that be have a vested interest in making it turn into that. It's like they have a vested interest in a self-fulfilling prophecy here. They have a vested interest in making the people do something wrong, so that people watching just go, oh, it's just a bunch of black people rioting, and ignore the bigger issue, which is the abuse of power by the federal and state level authorities in militarizing police departments and turning them into an own branch of their own federal power.
They're hitting them with the sound system right now, for the record. They're hitting them with the sound blaster, asking them to disperse. I don't know if they're trying to stop people from protesting in general, or they just want them to keep moving.
There's no curfew tonight.
Here comes a heavy... Oh, dude, they got people with rifles looking through scopes on top of a vehicle. Turn on CNN right now.
CNN?
I don't have a
CNN. I got it.
I don't have cable.
They are looking through optics.
Oh, yeah.
Showing, look at this shit.
Live CNN.
Somebody's echoing.
I don't even know what channel.
I would turn my camera on and if I didn't want to violate copyright stuff. But
Stone Guy's channel.
Yeah, don't turn your camera on, Tag Daddy. I'll fucking get my shit
Don't
flagged.
have those problems.
Yeah.
you are looking what $450 million in military shit gets you.
It's a nice truck.
Whose alarm's going off in the background?
No, that's the sound thing they're using.
That's
to
the sound.
Weren't they just playing like ABBA?
Oh my God! Someone fucking mute their thing.
Guy's got a light on his weapon.
Well, that's it. He's an asshole then.
Hey, I hate to
Well-
I hate to sound like a negative Nancy or whatever, but I'm telling you, this looks ugly.
Well, it is. I mean, look at how many people are out there. I mean, you're
several.
talking. I mean, we've all seen situations. I mean, hell, we've seen gatherings of people when sports teams win. They win. They should be fucking happy that their team won, and they riot, tear shit up, burn buildings. So I mean, think of this situation as should be more volatile in its nature.
And it hasn't been really.
And really, yeah, I mean, honestly, for all intended purposes, it's been pretty, other than a few little skirmishes here and there. I mean, this could really, like, if they really wanted to, this could
All right.
really get out of hand.
So what they're saying is that they've been saying all night, you can't stop and congregate, you have to keep moving. And there's one place where they've stopped, and here comes the face-off, and now they've all assembled. Here comes the truck with the sound. There's a ton of media.
Well, that's what they had said earlier, that they were allowing them to march, but they had to march, like they had to walk a straight line.
I don't understand any. I don't remember anywhere in the Constitution where it says your right to assemble is required for you to march while you're assembling.
Now,
During
now
a
let
riot.
me ask you this: how many of you, and obviously there's going to be a percentage of this, but how many people out there do you think are truly there to express a wrong and to stand up for this guy versus people that just don't have anything better to do that want to be a part of?
I think all the peaceful people have already gone home.
I would say it's 90 people. But any crowds, we're talking at crowd. Who's got that echo so bad?
That's Daniel.
That's
I don't know what's
Daniel.
going
I don't know
on.
what the hell he's got.
I don't know how I'm echoing. I'm using headphones. I don't get it.
But it's now I've lost it totally. Oh yeah, during the day you're looking at crowds that are like 1,200, 1,300 people, and then it's dropping to like 150, 200 at night. So that tells you something right there, that only 10% of the people are still hanging around at night.
Well, shit, now from CNN right here, it looks like there's, 500 or 600 people.
But still,
Yeah.
They got snipers on the roof.
It's still a small percentage of what was there in the daytime, but now they've bumped up the numbers of people that are staying now, because basically the people that are the good protesters in the daytime have now been told, you're facing an overwhelming power from the state that doesn't respect your authority, doesn't respect your rights, so now they're staying out there too because they've given them a reason to stay out there.
Now, are you seeing the gas mask attack? You still watching CNN?
Yeah, I'm thinking
The
these guys are
officers,
gonna these
They're
guys are
about
gonna
to,
beat
they're
the
about to
shit
get
out of
gas.
Look
Well,
at
they're
this
about to
line
get
of
gassed.
officers. Look how many fucking officers there are.
That's got to be at least 2 departments, if not more.
2 departments.
It depends how big they are. Here we have 12 to 1,500 officers at the sheriff's office and at the police department. So that's 3,000 or 4,000 there if you put them all together.
Yeah, I mean, this could definitely kick off and be something nasty, but
We'll see. That's why I say that's why it becomes a gray area, because I 100% support the peaceful protesters, and I support peaceful protesters fighting back when military and law enforcement overstep their bounds. But I also support military and law enforcement taking care of the bad apples that are there to capitalize on a bad situation.
right, and that's what some of the other people were saying. Even people from the community that they interviewed were saying, and obviously at this point we don't know if this cop did the wrong thing or the right thing, but let's just say worst case scenario, bad shoot. This guy, you can't, they're going after a whole department, a whole law enforcement community based on the actions of this guy in that area.
They caused that because the department, instead of coming forward to the people and saying, listen, we're here to protect you, not this cop. So
Exactly.
and to make sure if he's guilty, he's going to be found guilty. Instead, they basically said, back the fuck off, he's one of ours, we'll do what we want to do.
Exactly, and that's what I have a problem with too. I think they should have definitely been a little more forthright and more open in their investigation to the community and to the different different media outlets there to be able to give these people some sort of some sort of confirmation or reassurance that that the guy is going to be dealt with. He's going to be given his day in court, or his they're going to investigate. But for the mentality and the percentage of people that are saying he should be shot on sight, I mean, that's ridiculous. That just goes to show you the type of people you're dealing with out there.
Yeah, there's a Facebook video that's like circulating a lot lately of a cop stepping on a kid's head that's on the ground, and everyone's just saying, "Oh, he walked away scot-free. He's not going to face any charges." He's already been sentenced to like 10 years. Like he's been dealt with, and he's in jail as far as I understand.
Yeah, well, we have. I can understand people's problems though, because we have in Portland. Out of the last 50 officers that were indicted for wrongful shoots, how many of them have actually seen trials? 0.
Was that rhetorical? Oh, okay.
0. We've never returned with a charge for a in the city of Portland in the last 20 years. And it's because of the way they work the system to make sure there's no charge.
I'm not kidding. Right. I think one of the guys in line, one of the cops, has a pink stock. I'm not kidding.
Hey, honey, can I borrow your AR? I've got to go to work.
Dude, check it out. Wait until they show this one shot. I'm not kidding.
Now,
one of the trucks is advancing, it looks like.
One thing people forget to look at, though, is often when they're protecting these guys, these officers, they're not really protecting this guy. They may think this guy's a scumbag, too, and they may want to get rid of him as soon as possible later if the union allows them. But they're also protecting the uniform, the department, and the system. Because if people start thinking the system is broken, then they start losing faith in the police, they stop following laws, etc. But unfortunately, they put themselves into a situation where they protect themselves to the point where people don't feel like they're on the same side.
Right. Well, I think that's a catch-22 because, I think we could all agree, and we've all said before, there are definitely, a certain percentage of law enforcement that are just dipshit asshole law, think they're above the law, that aren't going to.
Car mechanics. Same with receptionists at hotels.
That's what I'm saying. There's going to be that percentage.
Hotels aren't given guns and put on the street with a right.
Well, and they are given power.
Well, the bad thing about it is you've got a situation. I think not only this situation, but just across our whole country, of law enforcement that has put themselves in a situation, in a position to be judged based on the actions. I mean, there's been some horrible atrocities committed by law enforcement, and unfortunately, that's given, it's given fuel.
There's the guy with the pink.
I saw it. I saw that. It's given ammunition for these, anti-government, anti-law enforcement proponents. It validates their claims because of shit like this that keeps happening. Officers that keep making stupid decisions or bad choices, or just outright thinking they're above the law.
That's one of the things I like least about shit like this, when I have to side against the officer, because it gives people like some of those guys, not all of them, but some of those guys over at Green Dragon chats that are totally worthless pieces of shit, in my opinion, the anti-establishment, I hate everybody kind of guys. It gives them ammunition to say, look, I was right.
Well, yeah, and then there's also the major issue on YouTube and Facebook and all that, all the different social media of screaming from the rooftops when something like this happens, but when they pull somebody from a burning car, nobody says a word or shares the video.
Right, and that's what I was going to get at.
And I have lots and lots of wild friends on Facebook in different corners because I'm a knife maker. It's a business. I have lots of different types of friends.
And that's what I'm seeing is more of the issue, is, and what I was going to get to, the fact that law enforcement has kind of put themselves in this position, but on the flip side, you also have a large percentage of the population that has also put themselves in a position to be, I don't want to say harassed, but to be maybe profiled, or to be picked on, or to be in that situation that law enforcement has a chance to interact with them. And shit like that happens where, there's criminals are criminals.
Another observation. There's a guy There's a guy in the middle of the line of all the geared up cops. There's one big black guy that's got a red T-shirt and jeans on and like a vest over top. He really doesn't fit in with all those dudes. Just
He's
for the
probably coming from, he's either auxiliary or just coming from off duty. But that's the thing. It's like like I said, it's a catch-22 because you do have law enforcement fucking up, but then again, you have
We don't have
civilians that are fucking up, and so it's like, how do you? I mean, where's the compromise? You got
the compromise is when people fuck up, they get punished for fucking up. We don't ever put ourselves in the situation where we start giving authority the leeway to abuse authority just because of the people that they're dealing with. They still have to follow the rules. It's far more important that the people in authority follow the rules than the people that they're enforcing the rules upon.
Well, exactly, and that's the problem, because when you've got these criminals that continue to break the law, that continue to put themselves to fight with police, to not, to disobey orders, and to go for a gun, or to, you know what I'm saying, all these situations that are valid, that actually are legitimate, and we'll just say legitimate shoots or good shoots where an officer's giving the guy a command, and he, goes after the officer, or pulls a knife, or pulls his gun, and the officer ends up shooting him. Well, then, everybody rallies around the fact that, an officer killed another criminal, so it just perpetuates an environment of back and forth between the criminal and the law enforcement.
But like I say, I am fine with cops putting an animal down. Some people are just fucking animals, and they need to be put down. That's the way I feel about some people, and I got no problem with it. When I see a cop put an animal down, I got no problem with it. And to be honest, when I see a cop put someone down, because of my own past history and experiences, I usually give the benefit of the doubt to the cop. But then, when cop superiors start breaking the law in order to defend this police officer, that takes away some of the benefit of the doubt. And then when you start examining evidence that doesn't support his story, that takes away more of the benefit of the doubt. And when the authority doesn't give the same scrutiny to the story that the people are giving, that's when it's a problem. When you have to start thinking they're not going to enforce the law because they have a preconceived notion. And anyone that's ever been in law enforcement can tell you right now that if someone that's not in law enforcement commits a crime, police pursue that crime with the intent of proving your guilt. If a police officer commits a crime, they investigate that crime with the intent of proving his innocence. It is a double standard.
Yeah, most definitely, and as but then again, you could look at right now what's going on CNN Live, where I think there is a certain, on both sides really, I think there's a certain amount of decorum being shown by not only the law enforcement but by also the protesters, because they're not antagonizing each other. They're not, there's people that are always going to throw up the claim that, an officer escalated the situation by, like imposing his will on someone, being forceful and presenting a command or a directive that's going to inherently, like, I don't know how to phrase it. Like, if you know someone's, especially in a group mentality like this, if you know someone's strong mind, strong-willed, especially in a group mentality, and you have an officer that goes up and orders them to do something, they're going to more than likely be met with resistance because of that mob mentality that feels like they have the upper hand.
Cops are rolling. Here they go.
So if you have officers that antagonize those people and force them into a situation of resistance, then that's what, that gives. They're already arresting someone. That gives the officer validation to lay hands, to put hands on, or to go hands on, versus, if both sides would just kind of sit back
Grabbing random people and arresting them now.
yeah.
The problem, it's like if there's a proper time and place to fight most things. If you have a cop who's unlawfully trying to enforce his will upon you, you do, according to the Supreme Court, have the right to resist with force up to and including deadly force, depending on the situation, an unlawful arrest. But generally, there's a right time to fight things, and it's usually in court. It's usually better to just go, okay, do what you're going to do. Later, my lawyer's going to make you sorry. But unfortunately, we've been pushed into a situation now where, and I'm sure, Stone Guy, if you've had any experience with internal investigations, you will know, and you'll admit this, that the vast majority of citizen complaints aren't met with, let's get to the bottom of this, they're, let's get rid of this. And they don't deal with citizen complaints properly, so the citizens don't have a recourse to fight it properly later, unless you're rich. Then you've got a way to fight it properly later. But if you're just an average Joe citizen that can't afford a $25,000 a week attorney, you're not going to get your day in court to fight it the right way. So you're not going to be able to, because your complaint's going to be ignored, brushed under the rug, gotten rid of, told, oh, we'll take care of it, he'll be disciplined, and then nothing ever happens. So that's the shame. The shame is that you can't follow the old adage of there's a right and time to fight it, because you don't ever get to fight it later anymore.
Right. That's yeah. That's a good point. And you're right. There's, while you may have a notation made on your file, an internal file, it's not going to be. You'd have to get a lot of complaints and a lot of consistency in complaints before they're going to.
We're talking tens, if not dozens of times, you'd have to do something wrong the same way each time, and then that would most likely result in a lateral move.
Right.
You'd be shipped from Clark County to Multnomah County. You wouldn't lose your job, you wouldn't lose any benefits, you wouldn't lose any time, you would just be laterally moved. Kind of like the Catholic Church. You touch a couple of boys, they just move you to another church.
Move you to a Baptist church, then it'd be okay.
And they've created this situation. Law enforcement has created a situation where the common person has no legal recourse, they have no hope of prevailing, and they have no reason to believe that law enforcement is actually trying to police themselves.
Yeah, you're exactly right about that. But I will tell you, I mean, that does, while there is, obviously, just like I think with any career, any company, any job, there's going to be a sense of camaraderie within that group or that company, that corporation, or whatever. Obviously, that exists in law enforcement as well. But there is also an element of, the police, the officers aren't just going to let shit go unchecked, especially if it's something that's just out and out raw, like murder, for instance.
Yeah.
The whole idea of a cop just straight up murdering someone and telling 3 or 4 of his patrol buddies, oh, don't say anything. That shit doesn't. I mean, that happens in movies.
That's TV show garbage.
Yeah, that shit doesn't happen in real life. It's.
There's too
But
much.
now,
It happened in Miami in the 80s, so don't say
Yeah.
it never happens. in real life.
Miami Vice. Yeah, but now.
Not Miami Vice. The entire graduating class was convicted of corruption. An entire.
Oh, I
class.
remember. Yeah, I remember hearing about that.
It's still the exception, not the norm.
Right. Now, there again, if you have something like a traffic ticket or something like that, that's minor things that could be kind of swept under the rug. Yeah, you'll get your brothers will look out for you, kind of thing. But if you're seriously fucking up, and
Sometimes they will, but I can tell you the quickest way to ever get a fucking speeding ticket is to be state fucking patrol and drive to a county that doesn't like state patrol. That will get you a speeding ticket in a minute.
or vice versa, state patrol loves to pull over city police, especially, or even a county sheriff. But yeah, because
Don't try to put it on us. It's you guys that are the assholes.
whatever, state patrol, fuck, because you guys have more authority than us, so they'll be like, fuck you guys.
Tell us because we had nicer hats
Yeah, y'all do have nice uniforms.
that they blow off and you knock them off getting into your damn car all the time.
But well, that's the thing, you know. They're still, you know, all of our officers are still required to maintain cover, you know, with the hat, and you know, when it's first thing you do when you exit the vehicle for a traffic stop is put your hat on, be presentable, no sunglasses, that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, and I see cops pulling people over on the road with these mirrored sunglasses where you can't see their eyes. I'm like, take your glasses off when you make
fucking Top Gun shit, Maverick sunglasses.
I'm like, since when did aviator glasses come into style again? And two, take them off before you make contact and you can't see through them.
Hey, officer, I want to know if you're drunk or not. Take off your glasses.
I'll tell you what bothered me a lot about the footage of the stuff in Ferguson is when they're going to like that McDonald's and media is talking to the police officer and they're like, oh, and the guy's like, you need to get your stuff, get out. And they're like, oh, can I ask your name and your badge number? And you don't need my name and my badge number. That should be a fireable offense right there.
Yeah, you have to provide that.
That should be fireable offense. It's on videotape. They know who he is. Fire him. It'd be one thing if he'd just been like, here's my card, we don't have time for pleasantries right now, here's my card, you can contact me later. That's the way he should have handled that if he didn't have time to give his badge number. Every one of them carries their card with them.
Why do I get the feeling the media is just having a wonderful field day with this instead of actually wanting to report the truth?
Gives them something to do. And Rick Perry...
When they report the truth, I mean, these people that are actually live, I mean, there's no not reporting the truth when they're, you know, doing satellite feeds right there live. I mean, that's the kind of reporting I like to see is when they're actually on site.
I'll tell you who's loving this, though. Rick Perry's loving this because now no one's talking about his ass.
Oh, yeah, he's kind of flying under the radar right now with all this shit. This couldn't have happened at a better time for him.
He's like, woohoo! He's probably down there in a mask in blackface throwing bricks through windows just to keep...
I don't see Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson. I guess they have other things to do.
Oh, what's the other one?
Now, am I the only one in here that? But I have to say, I liked Al Sharpton a whole lot better when he was fat and wore sequin jumpsuits all the time. I like Fat Elvis version of Al Sharpton better than I do.
Sharpton's going to be there. They were just talking about that earlier because he's a
No, he
affiliate
was
for
earlier today, but
yeah, he's an affiliate for one of the like.
MSNBC.
MSN, there you go. And that's what one guy was saying. He was like, how the hell how can he be affiliate for a news organization and be
he's an activist, but
activist, yeah.
I don't like the wearing a suit, combing my hair back, you know, no paint, no jumpsuit, no Jerry curl, no Twinkies, Jesse Jackson or Al Sharpton. I like the old Al Sharpton better.
I don't like any of the Al Sharptons.
He's always out on the street corner giving a speech to the media in his jumpsuit, his satin jumpsuit, and his Jerry curl hair.
And this is getting a little off topic, but I still can't get over the fact that this attorney for the Brown family is just obviously, I said this before, he's obviously, if he's passed the bar and he's gone to school, he deserves respect for being an attorney, but he comes across as the most uneducated, like, he just doesn't speak well. He sounds like a hood rat, and I just can't. It's like, damn, I can't believe this guy's an attorney.
That's his clientele. That's who he deals with, and that's who he's speaking to now. So he's actually being very smart. He's going out there and he knows here's the people I need to appeal to. This is my, what do you call it? Your
demographic.
Demographic, and he's like, I know what my demographic wants to hear. So yo. Because that's what his demographic wants to hear. So he's getting the right people on his side.
Yes.
Yeah, now, and if he is actually smart enough to have thought that through and play into the audience, then yeah, he definitely deserves more credit than.
There's also the option that he might just be an idiot.
No, if you go back from what I can remember, when he was representing the Trayvon Martin family, he sounded rather intelligent.
Yeah.
The one or two times I heard him talk, I really didn't care what he had to say, and I wasn't really listening. But the one or two times I heard him say stuff, he sounded rather intelligent.
Yeah, we talked about this off air a little bit, so I will go rehash into it.
Yeah, he just has that Ebonics slang. Like I said, I guess Yankee has a good point, especially. Ooh, that sounded like a.
Yankee had a good point. Oh my God.
Yankee gotta go piss, so I'll be back in a minute.
So it seems like, and if I don't know if any of you guys are watching on CNN Live seems to have the best feed right now, and they showed them taking a couple people off, like arresting a few people for. They didn't really show what led up to them being arrested, but it's still pretty calm for the most part. But it makes you wonder what those. Yeah, it might have been the few people that were, up in a cop's face, or maybe they got caught throwing something, or, and those are the ones they pulled out of
the line. But for those that don't have CNN or cable available to them, you can always go to fox2now.com. They've got live streaming as well. They're out of St. Louis. Fox2now.com. Just trying to help out, because that's what I've been watching.
So,
not to change the subject or anything, but just to break the monotony of the conversation for a moment. I told a joke this week. I went to an open carry picnic. I thought it was hysterical, but it didn't go over well. So I want to see if anyone else thought it was as funny as I thought it was. I went to an open carry picnic with the Vancouver Police Department and the local open carry organization, which was hosted by one of the sheriff's candidates for sheriff here in town. And go to the picnic. I'm just there to film it. I'm only there for a little while. So I get to where I'm talking to the sheriff's candidate, and there's a lieutenant from the police department there, and a sergeant from the police department there, and a couple other open carriers there. And we're talking back and forth. And the subject comes up of, you going to vote for me, or did you vote for me? And I thought it was funny to say, and we're all, keep in mind, we're all open carrying. I've got a gun on my hip. The other guys there got a gun on their hip, so we're all open carrying. And the guy says, did you vote for me? And I thought it was funny on the cuff to just say, I can't vote. I'm a convicted felon. No one thought it was funny but me. They just looked at me like jaws dropped open, eyes popped out of heads, and I was like, I'm just joking. And everyone's like, oh, okay. But no one thought it was funny. I thought it was funny.
I thought it was funny. That was like that damn Jack guy we had in the chat that one time. That was funny as shit.
Only you would walk into a den full of cops and say, I'm a convicted felon.
Yeah. I can see Geo saying that and them giving that response, but Yankee saying that, I mean, it's hilarious. Geo has such dry humor, and they think he's 100% serious.
Especially if he gets that serious face.
Well, honestly, what are they... I just don't get it. I just don't get what these people are... what they think they're accomplishing by being out here and bringing so much negative attention to themselves and acting the fool.
Right now, I think they're being manipulated into damaging their own cause more than anything else. So I really think these late night issues, I think that every step that I've seen the government and law enforcement take, there's no way that I can rationalize it outside of intentionally escalating it to where the people are damaging their own cause. Especially when you say, all right, we're going to march in the National Guard because of damage to property, but they're not protecting the property, they're protecting, the police. So I'm like, well, that's going to aggravate marchers because it's going to make it look like now the state is on the police's side. So it's like everything they're doing, it's like they're trying to agitate a response that will justify their means. And these people are following.
The other thing they reported on was the fact that not only have all the local gun shops pretty much sold out of firearms, but they're also saying gas masks have just
But you can't buy
like
a 22 in Ferguson right now.
they're like gone. Like all the gas masks are gone locally, and then they said that they've been a huge surge on like Amazon and eBay, eBay for gas masks.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
I'm on,
I
I'm on,
noticed
I'm
that,
on eBay right now looking for
That
gas.
just ain't right.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this. When I was watching the St. Louis live stream, I saw a couple people wearing the Russian surplus gas mask in the crowd. I'm like, cool. I posted it in here.
I'm looking at it. I'm looking at his Israeli one right now.
I've got 2 gas masks. I don't know where the fuck they are because I'm of the mindset if it ever gets bad enough here in civilian life that I need a gas mask, probably dead already.
Yeah, I get honestly not for like gas or because you're right. If it's that bad, you're probably already exposed. But those little ventilator masks that you can get at Lowe's or Home Depot, those would work real well for basic, basic contaminants,
Oh, they make some.
and they're readily available. You know, the ones that actually have the respirator can
If you
thing.
get ones that are rated
95.
for, if you get ones that are not just rated for dust, but are like rated for like paint fumes and thinner fumes, and
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
things, out most things.
Yeah, and they're, obviously they're more readily available in their brand. My thing is I wouldn't buy a surplus gas mask because those
God.
things are nasty.
Okay, I'm going to show you how pathetic kids have gotten nowadays. I'm sitting here. My son's upstairs. I get this text. Can anyone read that?
Say, make me something to eat.
We want ice cream. He texted me from upstairs. We want ice cream.
Oh, my kid
Well,
will text
texts
me.
are free, right?
My kid will text me at the dinner table. I'm like, dude, you're sitting right next to me. Quit that shit. Like, drive me crazy.
I guess I got to go get these kids ice cream.
Well, we've been at it for a little while. I think this is a good time to wind it down. We're probably going to do a lobby chat over at Gun Channels, but we stayed on topic, and I think this would be a good one to rebroadcast. Either on Gun Channels or if G-Webs will put this on a podcast, Stitcher Radio, iTunes, that kind of thing. So anyway, I appreciate everybody for tuning in, and for those of you that came on the panel and participated. So
Wait to
we'll
yank your own crank there, Stone Guy.
say it again.
Said, way to yank your own crank there. Yeah, if I do say so, this chat's good enough to rebroadcast. My chat.
We only podcast the ones that.
Right on. Anyway, no, I appreciate it. So go over to Gun Channels, check out gunchannels.com. We'll probably have another chat going on over there. But thanks, guys, for watching. See you later.
Stone Guy